I'm Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call Kickin' Nazi Ass. That's right, the Grindhouse team is suiting up and enlisting in basic training to put a major hurt on Hitler and his Nazis. We've assembled a list of genuine ass-kicking features that would make the long-deceased Fuhrer tremble from whatever special corner of hell that was set aside just for him. Mere days before the liberation of Paris by the Allies, a trainload of Nazis led by Colonel Franz von Waldheim hijacked priceless works of art from the Jeu de Paume Museum. Paul Labiche is called on to stop the art from ever reaching Germany. Burt Lancaster stars in the action-packed and stunning John Frankenheimer film, The Train from 1964. 12 condemned criminals are plucked from military prison, trained as commandos, and sent on a suicide mission to eliminate several high-ranking German officers. Lee Marvin and an ensemble cast star in 1967's The Dirty Dozen. A team of paratroopers are sent to the Bavarian Alps to save a captive U.S. general. Disguised as Nazi officers and Bavarian barmaids, the team must shoot, crash, climb, trap, and kill their way into and out of a mountaintop fortress. Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood dynamite several Nazis in the incredible and influential action-adventure film 1968's Where Eagles Dare. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
Yeah, so you're on TikTok now, so you're surrounded in Zoomers all the time, who have to constantly be making fun of how old and how crotchety millennials are.
Yep.
So that has to be a good shot of self-esteem, a little booster shot.
But here's the thing: they're right.
Listen, no one's wrong here.
I'm crotchety, and I like avocado toast, and I will probably never own a house. And if you say those things to me, you might as well be teasing the sky for being blue. It's just the facts of life.
Exactly. Oh,
yeah.
My God.
You will select 12 general prisoners convicted and sentenced to death or to long terms of imprisonment for murder, rape, robbery, and or other crimes of violence and so forth. You will then deliver them secretly into the European mainland and attack and destroy the target specified.
That's all?
That's all.
All right, welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm Brian Foster, and with me as always is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
Hi, can you understand me? I'm speaking German right now. Or perhaps it's French. You don't know.
They were supposed to be speaking German and French the whole time, right? I figured that much. Hello and welcome. We are talking about three very special films yet again on the show. A very special show, as per usual. This one specifically about kicking Nazi ass.
What? So the best kind of ass to kick.
I believe that's how he titled this one, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't think we've picked the title exactly, but that's a pretty good working title.
In all of our folder structures on Dropbox, it now says "Kicking Nazi Ass," and we have a very special guest with us today to talk about three very special films. Jeremy, would you mind doing the introduction?
Yeah, wanted to have this person on for a little while here. Comedian and very fun, delightful person to have around, Lauren Scharf.
Hello, thanks so much for having me on here to talk about Nazi ass kicking.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining.
Yeah.
Did you, Lauren? Did you come up with this block?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I believe Jeremy sent me a couple options. And I picked this one because I like watching Nazis get their butts kicked.
Yeah.
So I was just
perfect.
like, sure. And I don't know why in my head I was like, I bet those are comedies. I don't know. I had heard of Dirty Dozen, but I was like, I bet, I was just thinking in the mode of Inglourious Basterds, which I'd say is probably my favorite Tarantino movie because it is just enjoyable to watch Hitler get his face shot off. So spoiler alert.
Wait a second.
Which is kind of kind of the vein or the tone that I was kind of expecting from these films. And sometimes it was there. But yeah, it also had been a minute since I watched any movies from before the 80s. I'm one of those kids. I'm one of those people. It's almost like, even though obviously we were joking about this. Like, they're speaking the English the whole time. It still felt like a separate language just because of the way they spoke in movies back then and the way they presented the plot. You know, first scene, you have to be paying attention to every word, or you'll be like, okay, wait, what are they doing?
Especially when Richard Burton is on screen and delivering his lines. Dick Burton.
Dick Burton.
Pre-1980s, you saw movies all from the 60s, so this must have been a really tough departure for you, but we watched The Train from 1964, The Dirty Dozen from 1967, and Where Eagles Dare from 1968. And we were talking before the podcast. I had never heard of The Train, nor had I ever heard of Where Eagles Dare, so thank you for introducing me again.
You're welcome. It was all my idea.
And I couldn't believe how much of The Dirty Dozen I had seen growing up because my grandpa had that on all the time. And I just realized I've seen a ton of that movie. But an amazing
Dirty
block.
Dozen, it was kind of like, you know, It's a Wonderful Life, where it was just always playing on TV.
Right.
And the only part anyone ever saw was the last, like, half an hour. And you didn't realize the movie was super fucking long. And, like, there was so much more before that.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of Full Metal Jacket, and it's broken down into, you know, that training section, and then there's the actual action section and all that. And it was really neat how they broke that movie up, but awesome block.
I thought the same thing, but it reminded me of Cool Runnings, the way they break it up into training. Now they're having like a little trial run, and now they're in the danger zone, baby.
Bones don't break on bobsleds. They shatter.
So The Train, directed by John Frankenheimer. We talked about a John Frankenheimer on our very first episode of our podcast, our Paranoia Puppetry episode. Yeah, it seems like it's so long ago. It was at the beginning of the pandemic, so that was 12 years ago that we started this.
So this podcast was a pandemic project?
It did kind of become that, yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be, but we're dragging our heels up until the point where
we had to make it that.
If ever there was a time to start it, it's like this shows you what you truly will make the time for when given the time.
Yeah, and it was nice to focus on like movies, especially movies that I'd never seen before mostly. Because we couldn't go to any more movie theaters or any sort of like Beyond Fests or anything like that, so we might as well make them here. Yeah. So
don't tell Christopher Nolan.
Right.
It's the AMC last night.
Yeah.
The Train is one of those movies. I think I first saw The Manchurian Candidate, which was a Frankenheimer film. Then I was like, okay, well, what else did this guy do? And I was trying to like find all his movies, and it was on DVD back in the day. But it's also one of those movies where it's like, you know, why isn't it constantly playing on TCM or one of these things? Like why doesn't anybody like know about this thing? It
seems like one of those movies that no matter where in the movie you'd see it on TV, you could pick it up from a really cool section of a movie. Like it was, It had so many really great sections and scenes and set pieces. Brilliant. And very expressionistic, like Manchurian Candidate, you know, very stark and contrasty. Yeah.
That's true too. I mean, like the look of it is great, and the way the movie moves too. It's like, you know, I think once you get maybe past the first 10 minutes or so, it just is on a rocket sled the whole time.
It's on train tracks.
Hey,
I wasn't sure if earlier in our like little text chain if Jeremy wasn't picking up on the joke of like I was gonna send it by train, and you were like, "Is Train a new app?" And I'm like, "Oh, Jeremy."
Apparently you weren't picking up on my dad jokes. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because someone was missing someone.
Someone wasn't getting jokes.
But yeah, the train was sabotaged. So, and I don't know if I'm the only Android user, but I'm sure y'all can tell if I'm an Android user, and so often that's what gets accused. Like I was gonna send this by SMS. But I figured it's safer
fucking
to
green
it.
text.
I'm sorry.
When you see that green, no, it doesn't matter.
I am sorry, but you know what? It's because imagine if everyone used iPhones, how much more expensive they would be, and they're already a month's rent.
I almost can't imagine it at this point.
$1,000 for a phone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That doesn't make sense.
Pretty cool.
A work of art, you might say. You wouldn't want the Germans to be stealing.
Yeah, but only a German can appreciate it. It's like a monkey with a string of pearls.
But of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's obviously the point of this movie, or the plot of the film, was that a train carrying literally the pride of France, the national heritage of, over, I don't know, 20 of the biggest artists to ever grace France. Degas, Picasso. I mean, it was a train just full of priceless art. And this group that was running the train, they risked their lives. Most of them didn't make it through this, risked their lives to save this art. And I guess it's one of those questions, what was that worth it? Is that art really worth the lives of all these people?
Yeah, like as he said, he didn't want to waste lives on paintings.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and the paintings, like they kept saying it was like the national heritage of France or something like that, but
Pride of France.
But there were other painters. It was like Picasso and whatever.
He's Spanish.
Yeah. So it must have been just what that museum
essentially it was like
was
Nazi
holding.
plunder, stealing these paintings from everywhere.
Yeah.
And the sort of main Nazi wanted to make sure to keep those in good Nazi hands.
I was going to actually call him the Colonel, but I've noticed from watching all of these movies, including Indiana Jones and everything, that every fucking Nazi is a colonel or a major. And they
Major
are
and Colonels, yep.
every one of them. It's like Colonel, Major. This guy really had the I don't remember his name from Last Crusade. That Nazi soldier or colonel. That was in that one that fell on the tank and fell off the side of the cliff.
Right.
That guy totally reminded me of this guy in the train. Like he rocked as a Nazi.
Although, like, this guy, what was his name? Paul Schofield. Like he was, man, he was so good in that movie. Like when he was like super sweaty and like desperate at the very
Dots
end
of sweat, balls.
You didn't think
They really went for it.
You could be invested in the Nazi story, but I guess you could.
Well, so Burt Lancaster is Lubitsch. I'm assuming like Bar Lubitsch. Is that what his name? Lubitsch?
Lubitsch.
Lubitsch,
right.
Lubitsch, right. Yeah, Lubitsch. Does he run the railroad? He's a railroad man? He keeps saying. I'm assuming that he's like the main, like manager of the railroad.
Works at the train station.
Yeah,
and he really did
man.
work in this movie, right? They had him like picking up large train things, and
so they were doing these like these crazy Spielberg wonders where he's smelting metal, adding it to this train part.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Fucking welding it together, lifting it off that chain and sticking it onto the train itself
By himself.
Yeah, it's so nuts.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was so great to see him actually like doing that stuff. I really then, bought him more in that role because it's Burt Lancaster, like he's like very suave and like almost James Bondish in this role, but then he's like working his ass off and he's got ash or coal on his face and everything. It's like, it's awesome.
Grease. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And especially like Papa Boule, the engineer. Papa Boule was great.
Listen, 4 francs is 4 francs.
Papa Boule, one of my favorite introductions of this movie. It's just his first line is like, "You have to treat a train like a woman. If you treat them the wrong way, they'll make your lives miserable."
Yeah.
He was great.
I was trying to remember what the end of that line was.
That's awesome, yeah. Because he was really pissed. It was like the guy doing it right. He's like, "You're not doing it right."
Yeah.
Papa Boule, man.
And then, I mean, I don't want to skip ahead, but then
go for
later,
it.
Please,
he's the one who's like, okay, this I know will screw up the train enough that we'll have to stall, and gets very ego-y when
It's like, it's my train.
yeah, he's like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing here. I was sabotaging. Don't try to tell me I don't know my way around a woman, aka this train.
And that's where the 4 francs went to, right? It wasn't like just some random thing they just put in there. I mean, that was how they sabotaged it, stop the oil from penetrating through the pipe or whatever, however that worked. But that stopped the entire train or stopped the operation of it.
And instead of throwing the francs out the window and getting rid of the evidence, he stuck it in his pocket and was put up against the wall for his troubles on that one.
Yeah, and people got put up against the wall and machine gunned left and right in this movie. It was pretty sad to see, especially because even for some of the brief moments that some of these characters were on screen, you kind of fell for them right away. They were like very cool. They all had the right frame of mind when it came to this. They're like they wanted to save this art. They were going to do anything for it, anything for France, and they gave their lives for it.
The idea is like this is all in Nazi-occupied France and sort of the last days of the Nazi-occupied France. The Allies are knocking at the door. They're right around the corner.
Just
and they
delay
just need
it
to hang
until
on.
48
that's
hours.
The biggest pressing. That's the best way to heighten it. It's like we're so close.
Yeah.
It'd be like if someone got COVID now.
Right.
We're so close. I still don't want to get. I don't want to get COVID now any more than I didn't want to get it a year ago.
No,
but it would
obviously.
really suck to get it. Like if people are lining up to get that vaccine,
At
we're
the
like
finish
a month
line,
away
yeah.
from all having the vaccine. It would suck if all the Picassos, aka if my immune system came crashing down now.
Yeah, exactly. Why risk lives for these paintings?
I wanted to bring up, you had mentioned that, John Frankenheimer was brought in replacement of the previous director, specifically around adding more action to this film, like you mentioned.
Right. So we were kind of talking before we were recording, but yeah, the, originally, so Burt Lancaster was the star of this movie, and he was like kind of, producing it as well. Or at least he was such a big star that he could kind of have a say over the movie.
Produce.
Even though maybe he wasn't credited, but and the previous director Arthur Penn, who he did like Bonnie and Clyde. Well, he would go on to do Bonnie and Clyde anyway. Hadn't done it yet, but no slouch himself. But his plan was to kind of have it be a lot more dramatic, and kind of like a costume drama type of thing. And I guess Burt Lancaster and the studio and everybody else kind of wanted more action in it, and so they canned Arthur Penn. And Burt Lancaster had worked with John Frankenheimer several times before this, including The Birdman of Alcatraz and like 7 Days in May. And like, well, I got a guy who can do action, and brought this guy in that that was part of the thing that made this whole thing exciting. It's like, I know, Lauren, you were excited, because you hadn't heard of these movies that and thought that maybe they would be, more comedies. But, there's often an instinct for, such historical atrocities to, be portrayed very, very, dramatically and, very depressing movies.
Totally.
But what was kind of exciting about all three of these was just how, action-packed and, exciting and thrilling they were. And you didn't have to feel too bad for the bad guys because they were all Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
And and bringing that action to the movie was pretty fantastic in this one in particular, because it's like you get those things with like a train yard just getting bombed, and like they're doing that daylight run with the engine, and like that Zero or whatever, what was that plane kept strafing them and like shooting up the tracks behind them, and like there's all these like great action set pieces in it. I mean, there's like 6 trains derailing for real.
For real.
Nuts.
Yeah, there's some
real.
cool effects in this. And I had to keep reminding myself, wow, 1964. Baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was interesting that all of these were from the 60s, and I know World War II films is there's no time that's not a good time to make a World War II movie. But it was interesting. I was like, oh, that'd be like the equivalent of like a bunch of like 9/11 films coming out this year, right?
Yeah,
because it's like 20 years ago now.
Yep.
Which I guess there are a couple, but it's nowhere near. I mean, also 9/11 is one event compared to what was like an era of World War II. But
yeah.
The other thing I'll say is like the train had the best, at least the most convincing look. At least on people of the 1940s, because all of the women in the other films were like, yeah, that's a woman from the 60s.
Yeah.
Like the cat eye makeup and like the bouffant kind of style hair. Whereas like the women in this were at least a little like, yeah, that's like a French woman in the 40s.
I felt like Where Eagles Dare felt like a James Bond film, especially the look
totally.
of the women. Yeah, right.
Well, with the skiing and all that too. Yeah.
There's like almost like interchangeable blondes. Like, oh, but this one's like a sandy blonde, so they're different.
Yeah, different shades.
And they're
of blonde.
cousins, or like we're telling people they're cousins. So
Right.
yeah, but I mean, they're good-looking ladies. They're just like, I was like, that's a 1960s. It's almost like when you watch Dirty Dancing, you're like, yeah, sure, this is the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay, totally. And it's like The song from it too is the most like I had the time of my life is like so blindingly 80s. But yep, that movie, I think it's like 1961 or something that movie takes place, and yeah, nothing about that movie looks 1960s.
Right. They didn't quite get the period right. But yeah, I mean, like the look of it, I think also, it helped. It was in black and white, and maybe some of that was there. But like just the sort of dirtiness and grittiness of it, like all the like train engineered guys are just like completely filthy. Like there's that moment where
but they were comfortable being that filthy.
Yeah.
That was just how they were.
They might have been like, local hires pulled directly from the tracks. Who knows?
Well, look, I mean, it's like in Dirty Dozen, they're like, oh, this is the dirtiest army I've ever seen. There's like, these guys are just unshaven. Like, these guys were filthy in the train.
Yeah.
And
Franco actually had a nice beard. Like he had a cut. He hasn't shaved in days. I'm like, I wish I could fucking do that.
I know.
Right. Or the Jolly Green Giant guy who just had this like perfect number one beard trimmer beard on after not shaving for weeks.
Wait,
or
are we
that
talking about the John Hamm type guy from
Yeah.
Like the greatest
Posey.
looking
I
giant.
remembered his
Posey,
name,
yeah,
I
it's
was
Posey.
like, Posey, hello. Not so dirty. Oh, wait, I don't know.
Yeah. Keep going.
But he was like Don Draper, but like actual Don Draper in the 1960s.
I don't like to be pushed.
Yeah.
I don't like to be pushed.
But there was that scene where Burt Lancaster was he was running around sabotaging something. The Nazis were coming to check on him in the hotel, and like
Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, he's like sitting, like
eating soup.
pretending like he was like eating like a biscuit or something with his disgusting greasy hands.
Yep. But he's a man.
Yeah,
he's a man from the tracks. He probably thinks that's as clean as he'll get.
Yeah, he did wash his hands. That's after he washed his hands.
Yeah.
But it kind of like spoke to the authenticity of the movie, and like what you were saying earlier, where it's like just how sort of filthy everything felt, and like they didn't shy away from those things. It didn't have the sort of Hollywood gloss on it.
Yeah.
The other films did. Yeah, I do agree. This one definitely had that grit. But I loved how this movie kept things going with these different sabotages that they would pull on the train. They just kept trying to delay this thing.
Yeah.
That was the whole goal, was to just delay it until finally it was like, the Allies are coming, paint the thing white so they don't bomb it, and they'll just not bomb that one.
Yeah.
But when they were, changing the signs, clearly that one German officer knew they were going the wrong direction, but they looked outside and they're like, nope, the sign says we're going the right direction. And it kept saying,
the sign says it's, then we're home.
They pass by, you see all the guys just like fixing the sign back up.
Yeah.
It was like the sting. But that was the other thing that was like so exciting, was like how well they're able to like do this conspiracy. It was like, sort of everyone
was in on this.
Yeah, and it's all because of Maurice. He made that call to Maurice, and like, did we ever see Maurice? I don't even know.
I don't think so.
Because I
He was
just kept
always on the
hearing
other end
him
of the
mentioned.
phone.
Like, okay, I'll make that call to Maurice, and Maurice must just be like the fucking mob boss.
He's Charlie from Charlie's Angels. He's the guy that's just on the phone.
Yeah, because he was able to be like, okay, and they had to do all those like word math problems that we had to do of like, if a train is traveling south from this city in France to this city, at what time will it be passing? So that you have to change the signs, and then as soon as they pass, you can drop them.
Like. Literally, when they're just a yard past the station, it's like, all right, everyone, drop the sign, quick!
Yep, we did it! They're out of here! I think there was like even a insert of like some guy's lantern or whatever. He was like holding up a lantern, and it said like which...
Right.
It said the proper name.
Commercy. I wrote that one down for some reason.
On a lot.
Yeah, I wrote that down for some reason. Like, that was because they focused on that, right? It said Commercy or Commercy, whatever.
Yeah, I think that was like the proper name of the station they were at. And then,
right.
It was the French name instead of the German
I
one.
really hope the Nazi doesn't look at the lantern.
Yeah.
I really there was one shot in particular near the end where this kid was climbing out of the building and out of a window and up over a building, and they did this crane shot that was just blew my mind. And there was a lot of that in this movie. I just haven't noted that.
It was like, and a lot of them were really where you didn't notice them. Where it's like there was that right before the train yard gets bombed, toward the beginning of the film. Burt Lancaster is up on that little catwalk and he's like waving the flag to try and get the train to stop, and Papa Bull was like, nope, I'm going right through. And then he like tosses the flag, jumps on those stairs and like slides down.
Yes.
And then the train passes him. And
he jumps on the train.
Jogs past it and hops on the train, and it was all one shot.
He did it.
Wow. Yeah.
It was like his own stunts. That was amazing.
Right.
And I thought it was more amazing just doing the ladder thing alone. He just slid down the ladder. I'm like, fuck yeah. And then he jumped on a train. I was like,
right.
Amazing. Yeah. Just a great movie. And very satisfying at the end. I mean, I'll spoil the ending. When he guns down that colonel, I was like, come on, shoot him. Like, just do it. And he just did it. And I was like, oh, this was awesome. Like, it just ended great.
I was a little, like, caught off guard by that because he was, like, the Nazi was trying to tell him off. And he was like, you're not taking those paintings. And I was like, he's literally pointing a gun at you.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
Well, he was trying to tell him that, like, look, I'm the only one who can appreciate it. You don't even know why you did this. Like, and that was like, that speech, kind of helped make the movie in a way where it's like, it really, it spelled out some of the themes a little bit, but also, left you with something poignant because they were showing all those, like, I don't know, villagers that they, machine gun down as they're on their way out of town, as Nazis are wont to do. And then he gives them that speech about, like, to you, it's like handing an ape a string of pearls. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're looking at.
Yeah, so I really thought we were going to hear him, like, say something back, like, you don't know anything. When I was a little boy, I saw my first Degas and just the tutus. I was taken away. And Christine, the lady.
But instead of that, he just pulled the trigger.
He's like,
You're just like, no, fuck you.
I guess there's nothing to say to that other than this. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand, Art. You might be right about that one thing, but I do understand this. Pow, pow, motherfucker. Ba-dap, ba-dap. Oh, man.
Let's move on to the Dirty Dozen. Let's get into that. I wanted to specifically talk about the opening hanging in the film. It kind of like starts off very similar to Papillon's guillotine. Setting up. Yeah,
I got a note to mention that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're in a prison and.
Yeah, it was like kind of right on too. All the timing of it and everything. But I thought that was a really cool opening. And we meet Major Reisman, Lee Marvin, right away, and man, is he a presence on screen. That dude. Yeah. Is a G.I. Joe in life if I've ever seen one.
He truly was. I was like, man, this is what like an army man should look like. Like, there's just like he doesn't even raise his voice the way you hear like a sergeant or I guess this guy's a major. Again, majors and colonels, but like he doesn't even raise his voice. He's just like, you think you have what it takes to be in the army? What is it? And then he's like, I'm going to beat you up. And then he does it like all straight face.
Yeah, But literally, he doesn't even say beat you up. He's like, I'm going to bash your skull in or something.
Yeah.
He says
and
it
it's
straight
scary
up.
when
his blood pressure doesn't rise a tick. It's just like,
Yeah, no inflection.
As if he's given his lunch order. It's just like,
When Franco attacked him, too, all he did was kind of like duck real quick, and then they flew off around his back, and he stepped on his face. I was like, holy shit. That was awesome.
Look, you little bastard, either you march, or I'll beat your brains out. Understand?
But what a kick-ass movie about 12 deadheads going to kill Nazis. And this is this is not at all like Inglourious Bastards at all.
No,
especially those opening shots of the soldiers. They were the same frames, I believe, that Tarantino used. But it was great. I mean, obviously he was paying tribute to that. And this movie just nailed the look and feel of, that training, like I was saying, like that whole section of training into the actual going into the chateau and taking out as many targets as possible was literally their goal. Just take out the officers. Go for it.
Yep.
fuck them up.
Yeah.
So this one and the next one, Eagles Dare, like they're pretty similar in the sense that like the whole mission is like going toward this Nazi castle hangout
heist
in the mountains or whatever, and like
like a
Castle
very turkey
Brunwald
heist film.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think what the Dirty Dozen gets right that the Eagles Dare made confusing, because this is the first time I saw Eagles Dare. I've seen Dirty Dozen 400 times, or at least the last The last half an hour I've seen like 400 times. Like I've only seen the beginning, maybe 5 or 6 times. But having that recognizable cast, or the sort of what do you call it? The ensemble cast of not just totally anonymous people.
A-lister.
The A-listers,
very much
like,
so.
The A-list dozen.
And even like the ones that maybe people are not as familiar with maybe now, at least they look different. Whereas like in Where Eagles Dare, like some of the Richard Burton team, other than
Clint
Eastwood, you're like, just there's like it's these other guys. I don't know.
Yeah, they had like a tall guy, short guy, like kind of Laurel and Hardy thing going on for the main two, and then all the other guys, especially when they're all wearing the in disguise
the Nazi uniforms.
Nazis,
right?
I'm like, you all look the same to me. And then also they're like, I think their deaths are off screen, so it's like they don't even matter.
We had another death off screen in Dirty Dozen though, and it was Jimenez. It was he had a good personality, and he was playing the music in the barracks where they were at, and he's the one that broke his neck in the tree. But they never really got into that. It was just kind of
Richard Burton didn't go over to him and be like, "What's on the back of your neck?"
I almost thought that was because I have never seen the last half hour, unless I did and it was removed from my memory somehow. But just like forgotten.
We walked into Men in Black, yeah.
Yeah, but like I don't know. It's very. I mean, my grandpa used to always just have old movies on, so it's possible it like got in there but never passed from short term to long term memory. But yeah, when my whole rule with films and television now is like no corpse, no death. So when they were just like, yeah, sorry, that guy died in a tree, I was like, oh, we'll see.
Yeah.
He's gonna come back, and there's gonna be some like where like everyone else is dead and the mission is a bust. But nope,
you're a little too savvy of a viewer for this one.
Yeah.
It was Jimenez the whole Jimenez the whole time.
But what you didn't know was, exactly. I was the Nazi Eye Command all along.
Yeah. Yep, that's what I was waiting for the whole time. And that did not happen.
So, how great was it that the Telly Savalas character was named Maggot?
Maggot. And he was the creepiest character ever.
It wasn't like a drill sergeant just shouting out, "All right, maggot." It's that's his actual name. And it's like, and then he turns out to be a maggot, and it's like the shitty Beatles, not just a clever name.
You're right.
I think though this kind of even though they were successful in making him pretty creepy, I think he was creepy, a good amount of creepy for like 1960s standards, but like not just like, oh no, those strumpets are gonna like bring us down to hell. Like they would be like eating feces kind of like level. I just so yeah, I agree that Maggot was creepy, but I think he could have been so much worse. Like
in the remake, you're gonna make him worse, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're remaking Dirty Dozen?
According to Lauren, yeah.
This time, they're dirtier.
It's the Dirty Baker's Dozen. We've got one extra.
Dirtier Dozen. Back in the
Actually,
chateau.
there was a sequel to this. And it was called like the Dirtier Dozen or something.
The Dirtier Baker's Dozen.
Wait. Is that
now
for real?
There's 13.
That's for real, yeah.
Yeah, you got to bring a Baker's Dozen when you go in, because you're going to lose one to the parachute accident. So then you got the Baker's Dozen. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Lauren, you'll like this. The second or the sequel to the Dirty Dozen was called The Dirty Dozen: The Next Mission, and it was in the 80s, so it's right up your alley.
Oh, okay.
Oh, perfect.
Movie from the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk real quick, since we brought up Telly Savalas and the amazing A-list cast in this. We've got Donald Sutherland, who eventually plays the general of the group.
Right.
Charles Bronson, who is awesome in this. He is my favorite. I loved his scene when he was doing the word association with the psychologist.
Oh, right.
He kept saying baseball terms.
Yeah.
Shortstop.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Infield fly.
You seem to be thinking about just one thing, aren't you?
Yeah? What are you thinking about?
And then the guy that played Franco, I've seen him a ton as
John
well.
Cassavetes?
Yes, John Cassavetes, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought he was great.
Martin Scorsese's favorite?
He played that excellent, I guess he was kind of the leader of the group, and he had that like suave thing going on, but he was still kind of a psycho and a little bit out of his mind, and he played that really well. Yeah.
He definitely was like the most like James Dean type rebel,
There you go. Yeah.
like tries to make an escape, and those guys stopped him. I actually really thought it was going to be almost one of those things where even though it's an ensemble, it would be a little more about him. Like I thought he'd have more of Charles Bronson's kind of role.
Yeah, everyone had equal stage time in this one, I'd say, and they did a really good job of. Even though there's a dozen of them,
maybe there was like 6 of them that did, and that was like kind of like the Donald Sutherland, the Jim Brown, Charles Bronson, John Cassavetes, like that crowd kind of, and then there was sort of the rest, and it was like Jimenez came out a little bit, and then
some of them definitely got more memorable on-screen deaths than the others, because I don't even remember, how did Franco's character die?
We made it! We made it! Those stupid bastards! We made it!
I can't. Sometimes, some of it was dark, and I was like, which one got his foot stuck in the roof? I don't know. And they always just showed his foot. I don't even know who got his foot stuck in the roof.
Yes.
So if you're listening at home,
number 11,
watch the movie. Please tell us which one got their foot stuck in the roof.
Right. Leave it in the comments somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow.
On the podcast.
We'll figure that out.
Write us an email.
Yeah.
Tweet us on Twitter. Let us know.
I really liked that this, like I said, it felt like 3 different movies. It was a pretty long movie, but again, because it changed up so much of where you're at, it felt like it moved along really quickly. But one of my favorite parts was the montage of building the compound. Like, these guys didn't have anywhere to live or sleep until they fucking built it around them in the middle of nowhere.
Well, back when men were men.
But I really liked the shots of, like, the house coming up around Lee Marvin, and it was like he was framed by the big frame of the house.
You thought it was going to be the Buster Keaton? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Falls through it or whatever.
Yep.
I was waiting for it to go all the way down. And he's just smoking.
Yeah.
But that was the weird thing about that section. And there was one other section that I'm not remembering right now. Maybe part of the war games they were playing.
Yeah, the sequence.
There was
training.
like these sections where they had this like sort of Mickey Mouse like comedic music, like that kind of stuff, and like and like
very like off to camp we go kind of stuff.
Like, this doesn't fit the tone of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it really did. Like the middle section there felt like a completely different movie.
It did.
Just like in Cool Runnings. Like I was all excited for a good time, and then they go back to like hitting the grind, hitting the ice. Come on up, it's bobsled time. And are they going to make it? I don't know. It's really intense. Someone's foot fell through the ceiling.
Yeah, so who's more of a badass, John Candy or Lee Marvin?
Yeah.
Definitely John Candy.
That's what
I mean, come on. This guy had to pull up 4 Jamaican bobsledders by their bootstraps.
That's right.
And they had never worn boots before. It was all flip-flops.
Or straps.
Yeah.
But also, I love how right before the final mission, everyone had like they're set up with like the sort of the Last Supper, like long table where everyone's facing the same direction.
Yeah.
And but it's
But is this when they had the model house?
Yeah, and they're
model chateau?
they're counting down their like instructions and like memorizing what to do.
That was very cool. Yeah.
That was really cool.
But what was hilarious was that like they had a meal of like about 6 turkeys and wine, and it was like, wait a second, these guys are gonna remember shit. And he passed out in like 30 seconds.
Tryptophan. Too much tryptophan and wine.
Yeah.
That was the most unrealistic part of the movie.
I don't know, man.
But they did bring you on a ride, though. Like, at some point, it was really funny. There was some comedic moments, but then the ending was violent as hell, and there was a lot of... Well, I don't know if it was the 3M stage blood in this one. This was more of a pinkish hue to it, but...
Right.
It was funny when they showed some of the guys getting shot in the head. It was just kind of like a piece of gum got stuck to their head.
Oh yeah, you see one shot where it's like this, and then the next you see some guy go, and then there's blood.
This shot in the head.
Oh,
hey guys, this is an audio only format. No one's gonna know what the hell you're doing.
All right, just for the folks at home, we are currently slapping our foreheads and then pulling off our hands to show that there's an imaginary blood spot in our temples.
Thank you.
Because our temples are here.
Now that we've translated that for this medium, and I love a lot of the ending there. They also like did like in this movie, they kind of did the thing that the other two movies didn't do so well, which is that like it was clear, that the Germans were speaking German, and the only person who could kind of muddle his way through it is Charles Bronson, and like no one else spoke, and like everyone who was speaking English was supposed to be speaking English, and like there wasn't like that weird confusion, especially that you got in Where Eagles Dare,
yes.
or on the train, like one of those scenes where like the Nazi guard comes over to him and asks him some question, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think of this town over here?"
Yeah, he doesn't say anything. But then there was like a weird. Sorry for going back to the train.
So people that are listening at home, Jeremy just shrugged his shoulders.
He did the shrug emoji. Pull up your phone, pull up the emojis, type
hit
shrug.
that one, yeah.
Look for the man. That's Jeremy. But no, yeah, there was like they had an exchange there where then the Nazis said something back to them, and I couldn't catch it. I like kept replaying it. I was like, what did they say? And it's hard to watch. I'm one of those 30-year-olds that already needs all of the like, subtitles on, even if it's in English. But I couldn't figure out what he was saying, and then it cut back to the guy, and he like they made these faces at each other. Which for the folks at home, that's like both a shrug emoji mixed with the like smirky like I'm thinking about this emoji. Like, oh, there's an idea. So I couldn't figure out what they were saying, but I was like, it looked a little like maybe the Nazis that were watching them were like colluding with them. I don't know.
Yeah, well, needless to say, it was confusing for the audience because it was like everyone was speaking English, but there was supposed to be like 4 people speaking French and 1 person speaking German. Yeah. But in this one, they kind of did it the right way, which is that like they had the German speaking German and the American speaking English, and they didn't have to like spend too much time having your suspension of disbelief be severely engaged to the max, like with with Eagles Dare. Yeah. But how awesome! I think that my favorite part of the last 30 minutes of the movie was as like Jim Brown's like throwing those grenades into those little like stove pipes that like where all the Nazis are hiding
in the safe spot in the safe place. Yeah.
And then they're reaching up trying to like knock the grenade out. And
like maybe if I can just shoot it up.
I can shoot it like 30 yards up. I think I could do it.
There was one other part in where you see like the French the chateau staff, and they at one point like went into some hiding after they were let go from kind of being held at gunpoint, because it was like let the Frenchies go and just shoot the Nazis. But then like the whole house was blown up, so I feel like the French were.
I don't think many people made it out of that chateau that night.
Yeah.
I think they had to stay an extra night, Yeah. They're like, okay, we're going to have to change our flights.
Yeah. Explosions seem to be the weapon of choice, especially in Where Eagles Dare. There was dynamite in every scene.
They just like carried them in little kits.
So cool with the little timer that they would click off, and then that like tripwire that they would connect.
And there were two different settings. There's the tripwire, and then you can set it off to go off at a certain time.
Yeah, it's a delay.
Yeah, the delay.
I love how he opens it at one point, and he has this bag just full of these, different bundles of dynamite. And it looks like he just has like, a giant like tailgating size like cooler full of hot dogs.
Yeah.
What? No beer?
Yeah, this is bullshit.
No buns? Just big packs of hot dogs with clocks on them. What the hell am I going to do with these?
Yeah.
But I love how this the Where Eagles Dare like was such a like template for so many other movies. Like there's like Inception, obviously, with some of the skiing later on and trying to get into the castle. The like the Evil Dead bridge at the very end there, if you remember. Like
yeah.
It's kind of like Ronin, another later John Frankenheimer movie. Oh, Hateful Eight, like when he was like going to those, like when Richard Burton is heading to the shed and back, and like when they first get there and they're getting kind of snowed in, and then obviously Inglourious Bastards. But there's so many movies that kind of came out of this movie, but I feel like this one is not quite as sort of famous as The Dirty Dozen.
No, I never heard of this one.
Yeah, same.
But with the Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood pairing, you'd think that it would be, as well as Grady from The Shining, who is a Nazi that's taking phone calls at one point.
Oh yeah!
I corrected her.
But what was interesting about this movie was it was kind of like it started where the Dirty Dozen kind of finished in the third act of going into the chateau from parachuting in. But this one, we're pretty much right into it, right? We're parachuting in, and we're basically here already, starting the mission. But I love this one, like him meeting with like you said, the 60s blonde woman with the cat's eyes or whatever, like you're saying. I just really liked that there was like kind of a James Bond moment where it was clear that they had some sort of a sexual relationship.
Take off your clothes. He's just like, take off your clothes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We don't have time, dear. I'm like, come on. But he is quite an actor. Richard Burton, definitely a presence, stage presence.
Yeah, it's hard to play alpha to like a Clint Eastwood's beta. Like it's weird to see Clint Eastwood be a guy who didn't know what was going on. Because every other movie,
damn American.
Every other movie I've seen with Clint Eastwood has been like he's the man in charge, and so it was one of those things where it's like it's a British film, so they had to make a British hero.
Right. But this is also, this is after like the Man with No Name trilogy. This is after Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's like, he was already kind of established. Now maybe he wasn't sort of Dirty Harry yet. He didn't have maybe the American cachet, but he was certainly a known commodity at this time.
The Italian cachet and the Western cachet, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and another movie that it kind of reminded me of was the 90s Mission Impossible.
Yes.
The one where it has a team and there's like a lot of like, hunting out the moles and all this kind of stuff. And like, there's a lot of, cloak and dagger intrigue in this movie that I was surprised to find. I thought it was going to be more of a straight action movie, and it kind of managed to do both.
Yeah, it did it really well too. It felt like a little slower, a little bit like it was taking its time a little bit compared to, The Train was even a fast mover. And The Dirty Dozen had a lot of, like you said, like funny moments and stuff. This one played it, tonally, very consistent throughout, and it felt like it was really taking its time with things.
Well, it was the longest movie of the bunch, I guess. So
none of these really felt long though to me. They were really well made. Yeah.
And they all kind of they once the finale happens, there's no like denouement, like there's no post-resolution scene. It's like The Dirty Dozen was like, yep, we're gonna make sure everyone knows that they died in the line of service. Roll credits.
Yep. Yeah, kind of like with this one too. It just kind of pulled up the credits once we ended, right? It was like Schaefer.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we're done now.
I know. I love that. Also, like the credits were like two slides back in those days. Now it's like you have to sit through like a whole 10 minutes of visual effects artists.
Yeah, unless you're watching it on a streamer, in which case they'd put it in the corner for like about 5 seconds and then autoplay the next show.
Yeah, and you almost feel weird if you're like, no, I want to watch the credits. I'm that loser.
I loved when Richard Burton was talking to the secret agent that they had, or the double agent that was working in the bar, with the beers, the bar.
Which, God, how much did that remind you of Inglourious Basterds? Huh?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. That's what I was. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. That was exactly it. When he was talking to her, he was clearly saying one thing to her that everyone could hear, and then he pulled her to the side and he's like, all right, now meet me in the back. Now slap me in the face as hard as you can, and she fucking belts it.
Be in the woodshed in 5 minutes. Now slap me across the face as hard as you can.
Oh! That's the role I want to play. In fact, even though it doesn't pass it, I'm going to just say that... Well, actually, I guess this would pass the Bechdel test, because at one point, Heidi and Mary
They were talking amongst each other and not talking about men, so there you go.
They were not talking about men, yes.
I just thought at one point he was going to say, we'll take three beers or whatever, and say it the wrong way, and someone's going to look at him.
Oh yeah,
the wrong thumb and finger
that was
combination.
the thing. That's the thing that kind of bugged me. Going back to Dirty Dozen with Charles Bronson and his like limited German. It's just one of the. I have this thought all the time when I'm watching Killing Eve. I don't know if you guys watch that, but like
sure.
She Villanelle speaks just every language
everything
under the sun, but I'm also like I watch it and I'm like, but does she speak it so that like a native person
right.
would be like, wow, your accent is perfect too, because like when I'm not as fluent in anything the way she is other than English. When I'm speaking, I'm pretty good at the English. But anyway, I have the thought whenever I'm trying to speak Spanish with what limited Spanish I do know, I'm like, I try to put on the accent, but obviously I don't think I'm fooling anyone. So the fact that this guy knows limited, it made me think of like the scene in Family Guy when like Brian's on the back of a truck that's taking a bunch of immigrants. And he's like, yo soy Brian. And then like the guy's like, you don't have to say yo soy Brian. You can just say soy Brian.
Oh, you speak English?
No, just that first speech and this one explaining it.
You're kidding, right?
¿Qué?
Yeah, and it's like, and his English is perfect there. So it's one of those things where it's like, there's no way if you knew limited German that limited German would be said so perfectly that other Nazis are like, yeah, he's one of us.
Which is why they didn't even go for that in Where Eagles Dare, right? They just had everyone speak English, no matter where you are. Everyone had a universal translator in their ear that they could hear whatever language. Yeah.
Even though all the signs around their wherever that was, the house, were all in German.
The big castle, yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Well, and then also like occasionally at the very end when it was just like the swarms of Nazis attacking, they would be speaking German amongst themselves, like just in the background chatter. Like it would be German Walla.
Yeah, sei gesund.
As we sent the gondola back and down the castle, different bombs in each gondola at one point.
Real quick, those
again.
Scenes,
Oh my
listeners
God!
At home, Brian was just pushing his hands up, back and forth to the camera to express that these are the explosions.
He was expressing that there was a funicular gondola where one goes up, the other one goes down at the equal rate. It's kind of like the Angel's Flight. Okay, that's a Los Angeles reference if you've ever been downtown.
It made me think of Grand Budapest Hotel. Like I just even the way that the shots, some of the shots were like.
Lauren is using her hands to express it.
Yes, thank you.
No, but the some of the gondola scenes were so nuts. Like there were so many stunts where both Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood would climb on top of a moving gondola, and there were stunt people actually doing that.
You're in the Alpine mountains, and these are not small mountains we're talking about here.
And definitely where stuntmen dare, this movie took them, and it was occasionally they would cut to sort of a rear projection, which was obviously a lot less convincing compared to the parts that were done for real. But when they were being done for real, and they were kind of climbing down from the sort of piece that hangs onto the cable, and then there's the little arm that attaches to the roof of the gondola, and when they were climbing down on that thing while they were hovering 6 miles up in the air or whatever, it was at my I was watching it and it's like my butthole was puckering tighter than
it was intense. It was very intense. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm like this. We see
you're just like sweating and you're just
that are way more insane these days. But like this guy, it was just Richard Burton, and it was like 2 against 1. They're coming at him from
on
both
either
sides.
side. Yeah.
And also I couldn't help but think, I was like, these guys have got to be tired. We haven't seen them sleep once. And like they did the whole like.
Yes.
They spent a lot of with going earlier in the film when it was Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton, and they're on top of the gondola first. There's the whole pickaxe scene where Clint Eastwood almost slides off the roof, and then they go straight from that to climbing up a rope.
Like Batman from the 1960s, straight up the wall.
And then like they're even like, I was kind of confused, but then glad that they had that scene where like Mary was like, aren't you going to help him? And he's like, nah, I climbed it. He should be able to climb it.
Doesn't Clint Eastwood say something too when he comes in? He's like, you going to give me a hand?
Give me a hand, buddy? Yeah. It was funny too, because then they also, it's just one of the other fun things about watching older films is the stuff that they felt, yes, this is necessary to spend screen time on. And like, not only do we like have long shots of both of them climbing up, even though you can be where the action is and know, okay, yeah, Clint Eastwood is now climbing up. And then they also show, now we're pulling up the bag. Yeah. let's make sure we get a shot of them pulling up the bag.
Well, because you needed to know that the other bag was still there. because in their
Yes, I
escape
guess.
they needed to snag that one.
They needed to leave it there.
Yeah.
I thought some of the rear projection in that, although it was a little cheesy, the shot of them in the motorcycle and sidecar had me going like it was Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade. Like, you know, it was Dr. Jones and his father in the car and all that. It was just kind of cheesy, though, when they would like look back and clearly they just had like a fan on them and there's all these explosions happening, but casually looking backward. It was pretty good, though.
Right, well, because it just like when they were faking it, it became so much more obvious because there were so many other times when they were doing it for real that it was like and of course the real parts were extremely thrilling. I mean, like there were multiple set pieces on those crazy gondolas, and
yes,
and whoever was doing those stunts are just completely out of their minds.
No, thank you.
Before they can like paint away the safety wires and all this
right.
stuff, so like, these fuckers are just up there.
I was wondering. I was like, there's got to be for at least like the shots where it's just like a 3-shot of the 3 guys fighting on top of the gondola. There's got to be some sort of safety net beneath them, I'm sure. But also that might have been the one where they used the rear projection.
Right. I love how at the very end, like, so in this whole movie, yeah, Clint Eastwood's kind of the second banana, which is very odd to see, you know, considering, you know, where he went in his career and just became the sort of top bill, you know, name above the title and all this kind of stuff. But he kind of came into his own toward the end of the movie where he like takes 2 machine guns.
Yes.
He's going machine gun akimbo, and like, you
that
know,
movie
like
became Rambo at the end.
Making John Woo jealous of the kind of kills he was able to do.
Awesome.
I don't know what that like snowplow bus was made of, but it was like more indestructible than all of the German like weapons coming at them from all angles. It's like, yeah, they knocked out the windows, but the metal will protect them.
That one bus was the war machine. That one thing, the Wehrmacht. The thing that really cracked me up though with when Clint Eastwood basically went off the rails and started shooting the machine guns for the last 15 minutes of the movie, as he was firing them like over like obstacles, like you're gonna break your arm, bro. But he was just kind of spraying bullets everywhere. Yeah. I thought it was funny, but it definitely had like an 80s action movie by the end. You know, it kind of like was leading into like a Rambo or something that, you know, we're familiar, or a Commando.
Yeah. It was a live action like Wolfenstein. I'm sure they were kind of inspired on that one.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, especially when like toward the end when they were like going through those little corridors, and you just I don't know, you could definitely feel the influence there.
And leaving their little hot dog dynamite house.
And I know you guys caught the Wilhelm scream when the guy flew through the windshield of the car.
Yes, the crash test dummy scene. Yeah.
Man, that was disgusting. Guy flew right through the windshield.
Well, so wait, there was the crash test dummy scene, and then there was a similar fall where it looked like it was a real person.
Off the cliff.
Yeah.
When he hits the side of the cliff, and like you actually see him going down.
Right. What the fuck?
That better have been like, yeah. Sorry, stunt guy.
I was waiting. Yeah, I was waiting for the credits to see the visual effects artist, but there was none.
We're gonna pay you the most you've ever been paid for this movie, but we're actually gonna throw you off a cliff.
No, they just got the dirty dozen. They're like, listen, you can hang or you can fall off the cliff for this cool movie. What do you want to do?
We'll tell your family you died in the line of service.
Just pick one of those 12 deadheads.
Yeah.
God.
In the industry line. I guess we could talk about that confrontation scene of just like when he's like to Clint Eastwood, he's like, put your gun aside. And I did start to think, I was like, wait a minute, what's happening?
At the banquet table, the
twist of the twist, or the pre-twist
the twist of the twist.
So yeah, Richard Burton had me going. Like I thought he was, and he is a double agent, right? I mean,
yeah, because then he even calls that guy, and he's like, he's a traitor, and he's got scars on his right forearm. That's all I know about him. So yeah, I was like, oh my god, yeah, this whole film, he's the Nazi the whole time, or I don't know.
He can't be. His eyes. He's so
independent vigilante.
Speaking of eyes, and I don't mean to change it real quick, but I had to bring up that one German officer that was the head of the Gestapo. And he was the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. Like it was
the Aryan Prince.
Okay, on the nose, exactly. I was like, "Oh my god, this guy!" He was like the poster boy.
Speaking of a way to like play a creep differently than the Telly Savalas, the maggot character. It's like this guy. I mean, it's like there wasn't, I mean, other than, okay, the fact that he's the head of the Gestapo, okay, but like, other than that, there wasn't something that like, you could kind of like point to the same way you could with the very obviously disturbed maggot character.
Yeah,
just
for
his
sure.
name.
It's kind of like that guy is the kind of creep that you see on an average everyday basis, and then maggot is the guy that's like, oh, I was walking alone in Hollywood.
Yeah, he was like the average creep who was empowered by the Nazis to be even more of a creep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a satisfying subgenre of being able to like because obviously the like you're saying, Lauren, like there's an endless supply of World War II movies, and obviously it's one of those things where it's pretty black and white in terms of who to root for and who not to.
Oh yeah, so here's what I was gonna say earlier. It was one of those things where it's like, obviously you don't root for the Nazis, but there was something about watching these three films. I watched them on a separate day, but watching them semi back to back, where you are like, oh, I do kind of want to like see them get an inch, maybe. Like it's almost like if you watch like too much like Tom and Jerry, there's a part of you that's like, can we get one episode where Tom wins? Like I can't believe I'm saying that. Listeners, I'm Jewish. I am so glad.
Are you trying to get us canceled? Come on. Like
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one part of me that was like, oh, there's just gotta throw him one bone. Like have one of those little worst curse dynamite packages not go off or like gets disabled and hijacked by
not in these movies,
and then have them get hit like twice
right,
as hard
right,
back.
right.
You gotta
the car flips on him twice.
I can just about guarantee that there was not one stick of dynamite that didn't go off in at least Where Eagles Dare. They used that entire bag of dynamite.
That whole
thing.
arsenal.
yeah.
I mean, but that's kind of what made the Train so engaging and kind of like next level in terms of like the drama. It's like there was just incredible action, and it was certainly a lot of fun, and it was very thrilling and all these things. But then like the ending in particular was pretty poignant. I mean, not only were you sort of feeling for the insane amount of death that the Nazis caused for these paintings. I
don't know why I laughed at that.
It's
insane amount of death, and I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. 6 million plus 5 million non-Jews. I'm reminded of it at every family reunion by my cranky old grandpa. I love you, Grandpa.
Yeah. The one watching The Dirty Dozen. He's only watching that last scene though.
Yeah.
But then you are sort of like reminded of that moment, and then like the guy gets that good speech, so and he's so desperate, and he's also like all alone on this mission to preserve this art. I mean, which is also something where it's like as I don't know how invested you guys are in knowing about some of the culture of the Third Reich, but like art and all this stuff is like they kind of talk about in the very beginning, where it's like it's all very degenerate, and like oh there's all this stuff that can't be celebrated and whatever else. And so this guy was kind of a heretic in that sense because he cared so much about these paintings. So in that sense, Lauren, you're right. Like there is a little something to cling on to with this guy, but then he gets his just desserts.
Yeah.
Without a word, Burt Lancaster dispatches him.
It was great. Yeah.
I mean, at least like so. I don't think we even made this comparison, but I don't know if you guys saw Monuments Men a couple years ago. It had like an all-star cast, but it was very similar. Where it was like Bill Murray, George Clooney, and it was them trying to save artwork that the Nazis stole like right as Europe was being liberated.
Right.
But the thing that was the understanding there was that they were stealing it to put into their own like private homes, and I think some of it was going to be destroyed, and that kind of like lit a little bit of fire, and they're like, yeah, the Nazis have to lose. But here you were kind of like, oh, that guy appreciates the art, and this guy's just kind of along the and Baba Ganoush made that whole speech to him of like Papa Ghoul. I'm so sorry, I forget his name, but I love him.
It's pronounced Gabagool. Papa Booey.
Gabagool gave him the whole spiel about how like your father would be disappointed if he saw that you're not standing for anything. And he's like, you know what? He was right. And he just his brains are on the wall for it, but I've got to step up. I've got to step up.
Get off my train.
For the sake of the Picassos. Yeah.
Exactly. And the Degas. And
the Degas. Gotta love those ballerinas.
Yeah. And the horses, right? Degas horses?
Something like that.
Oh, I don't know.
What do I know about art? Look, I'm just an ape with a string of pearls.
On that note, we are 3 people who don't understand art, but thanks for listening to us talk about films.
That's why we watched action movies.
Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
As we machine gunned and dynamited zombie colonels and majors. For those at home, she was doing a machine gun thing with her fingers.
For those at home, Brian said zombie when he meant Nazi.
Oh my God! You guys,
I can't get away from
Nazi
zombies.
Zombie film. Has it been done?
Dead Snow. There was one.
Oh man.
Well, thank you so much. Is there somewhere that people can follow you, our listeners?
Yes, preferably online. I don't like being followed in real life, in person. But you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at LL Cool Scharf. That's LL Cool Scharf. Ladies love Cool Scharf.
Nice. We'll put that in the description when we post this, which should be in a couple weeks.
Knock you out. That's too long ago. I only know the NCIS LL Cool J, okay?
I feel like I misrepresented myself. It's not that I never watched anything from before 1980. It's just, it's so rare these days.
Wait, he was a rapper?
I don't know what you guys are joking about. I came up with the name Ladies Love Cool Scharf.
Next week, we will be taking a look into the Kurosawa noir genre with 3 films, Stray Dog, The Bad Sleep Well, and High and Low. And we also have a guest for that one. Is that right, Jeremy?
We do, yeah. And I think part of the inspiration for this was the Criterion Channel had a huge collection of Japanese noir. And then I was thinking, some of the few movies that Kurosawa did in his own time were noir films. So it'd be kind of fun to explore that side of film noir.
Sounds excellent. All right, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Yeah.
Tschüss.
Already more German than they had in all of those films.
That's true.
Here's your prize, La Biche. Some of the greatest paintings in the world. You feel a sense of excitement in just being near them? A painting means as much to you as a string of pearls to an ape.